you look back on your life and you're like, oh, patterns, so many patterns. I didn't think about, classic, codependent wanted to sit next to high-strung talk show host. And it's like, here I am.
It's Mayim and Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you, because she knows a thing or two. And now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
Mayim and Bialik's breakdown is supported by Athletic Greens.
With so many busy things happening in life, it can be hard to keep up nutritional habits that give us what our bodies need in order to not only survive, but to thrive. And that's where Athletic Greens helps. They have an all-in-one superfood powder. It's great, especially if you're busy. One scoop has 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients. Also, if you're keto, if you're paleo, if you're vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, it's for you. And it has less than 1 gram of sugar. Athletic Greens has got you for year-round immune support by offering our audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/breakdown and join so many people around the world who make a daily commitment to their health. athleticgreens.com/breakdown. Get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik, and welcome to my breakdown. This is the place where we break down the things that make us break down. Today we're going to be breaking down, so many interesting things. A little bit on codependency, a little bit on being a sidekick, a little bit on depression. We're going to be talking to Andy Richter. You may know him for his 28-year run on Conan O'Brien. Very, very exciting. But before we get to Andy Richter, I'd like to introduce you to the 8th grade boy in the room, Jonathan Cohen, who has decided to wear a patterned t-shirt with a dress shirt over it open, which the last time I've seen that be acceptable was in 8th grade.
Look, I got dressed very quickly.
You didn't say hello.
Oh, hello, everyone. Also,
you got dressed quickly?
I mean, I had to change. You were wearing blue. I didn't know what was happening.
And the thing you had to change into was blue, not a t-shirt with blue over it. Now your fans are going to get mad that I'm picking on you?
People don't like to hear mom and dad fighting.
Then they're listening to the wrong show.
You could have also introduced me as everyone's favorite sidekick.
No, I don't like that word. I don't like that word for Andy Richter, and I don't like it for you. And I don't think you're my sidekick.
What am I?
You're my partner.
You say co-pilot.
You're my co-pilot.
You used to say co-pilot. This picture, when you were innocent to what we were embarking on, you used to say co-pilot quite a bit.
Yeah, you're my co-pilot.
All right. I don't have any of the controls at my desk.
Well, it's kind of like the movie Airplane.
I just get the dummy seat.
Yeah, it's the dummy seat. I'm also regretting wearing a ponytail. I say that every time I wear a ponytail.
Didn't impact your interviewing skills at all. This one's a great one.
My forehead didn't used to be that tall.
Andy will make it all better. Why don't you tell us more about him?
Well, Andy Richter rose to fame in 1993 on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, a show that I've been on several times. I don't know if Andy has been on every single time, like with me. Sometimes he does other things and isn't always sitting there, but maybe I just don't remember. And he reprised that role on The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien, which premiered in 2009. In addition to many primetime guest starring roles, he starred in the Emmy-nominated series Andy Richter Controls the Universe for Fox and Andy Barker PI for NBC. He's also been in a bunch of interesting features, including Talladega Nights. Just like I'm a big
one.
Big fan of that. Also, Elf. He is the voice of Mort in DreamWorks' Madagascar films, as well as the Nickelodeon series Penguins of Madagascar and All Hail King Julian. Really a delightful person who I've known for a very long time. And it's really a pleasure to speak to Andy Richter.
Break it down.
Hello, Andy Richter.
Hi. Hi, Mayim. How are you? Wait,
I'm
you
okay.
just said, I'm going to formally introduce you. And then you went, hello, Andy Richter.
That was it. That was the formal introduction.
Pretty formal.
I wanted to sound a little more peppy than I was.
Well, it worked.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and for talking with us.
Sure.
I did your podcast.
You did. ages ago.
Ages ago, I believe it was one of the first podcasts that I ever did.
Oh, really?
Because I remember that I barely knew what a podcast was. And I think,
now look at you.
Look at me now. We did it on the Conan stage, isn't that right?
That's correct. They took, and it's really extra tragic because when we downsized from an hour to a half hour, they were like obvious, but it's like, it wasn't just for fun. There were some budget cuts. And one of the things we had to lose was the band, the live band. So that the band's dressing room became our podcast studio. Poor band,
It was a very nice studio.
Well, yeah, you're right. It doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if it's in there anymore because they tore down that whole set. But yeah, we had a very nice studio, and that was where I was on. I think it was March 13th was the last time I was ever in there, and then I think it got.
Do you always remember dates of things that happened?
No, because of COVID. That was like I interviewed Dion Cole in that studio in the, like kind of midday, and that was the day that I that day when you're kind of like, well, I guess I am going to have to now not go anywhere. I guess that this is like serious enough that like I really do have to hunker down and stay home. And so that was my last big place to be out. I'm not now. Now I'm all over town.
No, that's a really good kind of segue into why and how we started this podcast. Was we couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I realized that every mental health challenge I had ever had was all of a sudden going to get really, really magnified.
Yeah.
Because I lost all of my distractions. I lost all my numbing. I lost all my losing myself in the aisles of stores. I lost restaurants. I'm so busy. I just don't even have time for this. Like all of a sudden, it was just me and this impending doom, which in many cases, was real, meaning the uncertainty that many of us had at the beginning of the quarantine and COVID. You've been very open. And you've talked a lot about some of your experiences, but maybe you can give us like a little bit of a kind of a thumbnail sketch into, who little Andy was. And I'm always curious to ask people, looking back, did you know, the things about you, the things that you know about you now and the challenges you have, let's say, when were they first evident? What was little Andy like?
Oh, gosh, that's a really gigantic question. And I love it. I'm tying a big bib around my neck and getting knife and fork out to dice it up. I think a very formative thing on me as a kid was that a lot of adults in my family sort of took me on as like friend and confidant when I was young, like in, 12, 13, 14. And it's one of those things that you look back on and think, oh my gosh, as a parent, you think, oh, wow, that's totally inappropriate and wrong and damaging. And geez, I know you want to, the people that you love, you want to think, oh, they're doing the best with what they got and, they're well-meaning and stuff. But then you do, you want to believe that, but then there's also like the parent that you are going like, oh, that was terrible. Like you should not have done that. Like you should not have like, hey, young growing mind, take a look into this middle-aged abyss. Fun, huh? Yeah, it is. It's great. Thanks. Looking forward to getting older. But I think, and then that was that kind of set ahead a life of not really being like a super people pleaser, but certainly not having a lot of self-assuredness about what I should be doing and where I should be going. I kind of like, I like kind of get into other people's, what do you call that? They're, when they break the wind, not break the wind, when they,
wow.
But like when you're drafting, I draft in behind other people, like in bicycle riding. That's
got it.
Drafting. I like to get in behind other people that are going somewhere. And And that's like, I don't know. It's all after all this time, I found it kind of a bummer. So I'm trying to be a little bit more self-actualized. And that's me in a nutshell.
All right. Well, this has been great.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
That and during COVID, I apparently did nothing but drink gravy because I came out the other side of it not in the best shape.
Sorry, that's funny. So going back to young Andy, you're one of 4 kids, correct?
Yes.
And you're from the Midwest, right? Michigan?
I am from Illinois.
Illinois.
I was born in Michigan.
That's
but,
what I thought.
Yeah, but mostly Illinois.
Illinois. Not Chicago. I mean, like,
no.
because like most people think like, I don't even know where Illinois is, but I think Chicago's there. But you're not talking about Chicago.
I am not talking about
Okay, got
Chicago. I am talking about like if it was Los Angeles, I'm talking about Bakersfield.
Okay.
You know,
got
like
it.
it's
not Chicago.
It's close enough that you could drive, but it's it's kind of
got it.
far away.
Tell us a little bit. Like you kind of have an interesting parent story. What do you like to share about your parents?
Oh, I'll share. I think what you're talking about is that my dad came out when I was 4, and I had a 7-year-old brother, and he came out to my mom, and they split up, and that's what predicated me being a child of divorce. And it wasn't that. It's not like a big deal. It really.
Well, so like, I'm not saying it should.
Now it's not a big deal. Now it's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, I don't mean to age you, but not a lot of people were talking about coming out. I do have friends a little younger than you whose dad came out, and yeah, they've just like had a dad who's married to a guy for a million years. But back then it was still like kind of like what.
I think I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and the main thing about it, and he took me and my dad's from Springfield, Illinois, and that's where all his side of the family is, and that's about 2.5 hours south of where we lived, which is west of Chicago, and that was where, we'd go down there for different holidays and vacations in the summer and stuff, or, to visit relatives. He and my mom went to high school together. And so it was my mom's kind of high school hometown. And he told me and my brother, he just put us in the car one day and said we were going to the mall, like kind of in retrospect, performatively announced, come on, we're going to the mall, so that my grandparents would hear that. And then he drove us to just like a parking lot in the local park, and then told us that he was gay. He lumped it in with the birds and the bees story.
Oh my!
Yeah. Which, I mean, we already understood the basics of the birds and the bees, but he said things like the penis, which is also sometimes called a dick or a cock, like he had to throw in some hip street lingo for us. And then he said, and some people are attracted to the same sex, and that's what I am. I'm gay, and we went, oh, okay. And I don't really feel like it threw me for a loop. I don't know whether I was young enough that it just kind of like, I just didn't have enough knowledge to push back on anything. I just would be like, oh, okay. But I do remember when he got done with the talk, I said like, well, wait, aren't we going to the mall? and he was saying, no, we're not going to the mall. I just said that. It's like, oh, I wanted there at least to be the mall at the end of this boring talk. But I think it might have had more of an effect on my brother. He might have, maybe overcompensated as just, was it a super horn dog, super hetero horn dog.
You don't have to use hip terms with me. You don't have to bring out the cool lingo.
But it never really bothered me that much. I mean, I knew enough not to spout it, but I mean, I told my friends when I was probably in junior high school, and it wasn't a huge deal.
I mean, it was probably a bigger deal that your parents were divorced at that time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like I say, it's not something I would say like, hey, everybody, I have a gay dad, like in my freshman
If
year
I
of
had
high
a gay dad, I would tell everyone. Sounds like a cool thing to tell people.
Yeah, but you live in the valley. That's not Illinois. It's not
That's true.
cornfields, you know. No, well, and my son is gay. I have a 20-year-old son that's gay, and he came out to us when he was 11. And
Did you take him to the mall?
no, I said thanks for letting me know, you know. And then it's funny because we didn't speak about it ever since then, pretty much. Like he told us when he was 11, and then it was like, all right, normal, like normal building of your sexuality separate from mom and dad.
Right.
Go over there and do that over there.
Right.
And he didn't, you know, he and his generation, at least and his peers, they just kind of, you know, they were just gay and then said, oh, I'm gay, and nobody pushed back. And they don't, you know, my ex-wife a few years ago when they were like 17 or something, my son has a boyfriend he's been with for 4 years. And she said, like, are you guys going to Pride? And they went, oh, is that now? and she goes, yeah. And their question was, is there like parking? Like, is there decent parking? and the other one was my son's boyfriend said, are there food trucks? Like they were like,
Takes all
Pride.
kinds. Takes all
who cares?
kinds.
That's just, is there going to be gyros, you know?
That's
Are they going to have elephant ears?
That's what I ask if Mayim tries to take me anywhere.
Is there parking?
Is there parking, and am I getting a kebab? Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp.
Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? I'm asking you, Jonathan. Oh, you're pointing to me? Well, BetterHelp can assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist, and you can start in under 48 hours communicating with a therapist. The service is available for clients all over the world. You can log in anytime and send a message to your therapist. You get timely and thoughtful responses. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, and they are so committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, they make it easy and free to change therapists if you need to. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. My mother actually used BetterHelp. She loved it. She loved how she could communicate with the therapist, and they talked, they set up an appointment. It was really, really awesome to see it in action.
Visit betterhelp.com/break. That's better HELP, and join over 2 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. So many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional therapists in all 50 states. Special offer for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/break. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Ritual.
Ritual. We deserve to know what we're putting in our bodies and why, especially when it comes to something that we're taking every single day. Ritual is a clean, vegan-friendly multivitamin that has high-quality nutrients in bioavailable forms that your body can actually use. That's a true thing. When people are like, well, what makes Ritual different? These are the things that you need to keep your body going in bioavailable forms, which means your body can actually use them most efficiently. They don't have sugars or GMOs or allergens or synthetic fillers or artificial colorant, and they taste great. There's a delayed release capsule. That makes taking your vitamins easy and efficient for your body. Ritual is a multivitamin reimagined. It contains key nutrients to help fill any gaps in your diet. All you have to do is take 2 pills a day, and it's also traceable. You know what nutrients you're taking and where they come from thanks to their one-of-a-kind visible supply chain. How do people get key nutrients without the BS?
Well, our listeners get 10% off during their first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/breakdown.
Start your ritual today.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Noom.
We've all heard of those incredibly restrictive eating plans that are designed to help you like lose weight and like understand your relationship with food more. When we try to get healthier, we tend to think of the things we can't have. We tend to like go from a restrictive perspective instead of thinking, what can I give myself more of so that I have not just the body, but the lifestyle and relationship with food that I want? Noom is unique in that it uses a psychology-based approach to change our mindset for good. Building better habits means a more sustainable journey to better health, no matter what your body looks like or what you think you want it to look like. The Noom app is incredibly easy to use. It's fun. I mean, I've gotten into the habit. I do my lessons every day. I follow where I am on the little map tracker. I track my meals. It's very easy to use. And honestly, it's the most fun I've had with an app that's trying to teach me something. Like, it almost feels like a game. Taking care of your health doesn't have to be stress-inducing. It can be empowering. Noom fits into your life on your terms. Start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Jonathan, what do they do?
Sign up for your trial at noom.com/breakdown. That's NOOM.com/breakdown.
You went to college in Illinois, right? You did not leave home, as it were.
I did not. I went to University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, or Urbana-Champaign, depending.
I think it only matters to people from Illinois.
It certainly does. And then 2 years to Columbia College in Chicago for film school.
Got it. And were you always kind of a performer? Were you, what did you find in performing? Some of us like to hide up there. Some of us loved the applause. Like, what, do you know when you think back, what was it?
I distinctly remember imitating Tim Conway when he did that like old man that shuffled and barely on Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
Doing that on the stairs and like doing pratfalls down the stair, like getting up one step and then falling back just to delay going to bed with my grandmother just being in absolute stitches over it. And I still remember like that moment being like, oh, wow, this is pretty fun. I haven't really retained that, like, I need the roar of the crowd. And I don't think I had it even when I started to seriously pursue performing. I just realized it was something that I had a facility for and like making people laugh. And then it just ended up seeming like a fun job. It's just, I can't imagine a job being more fun than
playing make-believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think there wasn't a lot of like me trying to hide as far as acting goes or performing goes. And also because I tried acting in college and I didn't like the training for it, because I think mainly because I wanted to be a film actor. And they teach you how to be a theater actor. And there's just a lot of
stuff,
bullshit.
Yeah.
In acting training, it's just like, Charles Grodin was a terrible curmudgeon, but I remember he wrote a few books, but the first one, he said that he would get booted out of acting classes because he would ask why.
Yeah.
Like they'd say, do this. And he'd be, why? And they would never, he said, I never got a satisfying answer. And I relate to that. Like, why are we doing this right now? Like, is it just a lesson in submission? Is that it?
Yes.
Which sometimes I think it is. Yeah.
You've talked a bit about kind of some of what depression felt like, meaning in your body, and sort of what that experience was. Do you remember being depressed as a kid or a teenager, or was it when you got older?
I remember as a kid missing my dad, just like aching missing my dad at like 4 and 5 years old. And the song, and it's such like overkill, sappy song for what I'm about to tell you about it, but is Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel.
Works every time.
I used to play that on
we didn't have repeat then. You'd have to rewind it.
You know what I mean?
Again.
Yeah, I'd move the needle back like 5 times and listen to that and just sit and picture, run like a slideshow through my mind of Bloomington, Indiana, which is the town that we had lived in and moved out of after they split up, and just cry and feel sad and almost like luxuriate in it at age 5, which is, not optimal as far as childhood psychological development. You shouldn't take long, luxuriating, sad baths at that age. But and then I had a tough time with depression like throughout my childhood. And, and when I got to be old enough and actually had health insurance that I could pay for it with, I got on medication, and I've been on medication ever since.
What were the tools you used kind of before you, I mean, I don't want to say tools, but coping mechanisms? What was like, what helped? Like, were you an eater? Were you a workaholic? Like, where did you put it? Because also we didn't really call it depression then either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one good thing, my mom was very open to therapy and to talking about your feelings. So it was, it had a name even when I was a kid. I mean, there wasn't a lot of coping mechanisms. I think it was just gutting it out for so long. Yeah, when I was a kid, I think I just kind of would feel miserable and maybe get comfort from my mom about it, but I can't think of anything where I had like a strategy in place.
Well, some people drink, some people do drugs,
Yeah,
some
well,
people
when I was going to
date,
say, when I got older, before I could afford medication, I was self-medicating with weed. Not alcohol. Alcohol doesn't do the trick for my depression.
Well, and it's a depressant, so.
Yeah. But weed, which is also a depressant too. Weed seemed to help, but it was, it was a very short-lived thing, and it just became a cycle of I feel better when I get high to I feel shitty when I'm not high. It's a very tight loop, and so it does not pay off in the long run.
It's a very, very dangerous line.
Yeah.
Yes.
You started on medication when you were in college.
Just out of college.
Okay. And were you also in therapy at the time?
There were some gap years there because I went to the counseling center at University of Illinois when I went there. Columbia College didn't really have such. And then I cobbled it together in a couple places with sliding scale, kind of places. But I didn't have the money, I didn't really start therapy in earnest until after I was on the Conan show and had healthcare.
Right. You already mentioned something about, maybe feeling like you don't necessarily advocate for yourself, or that you haven't, advocated for yourself, or that what was the drafting? No one can figure out that expression.
Drafting. It's when someone else is like you get behind a truck and there's less wind resistance, like that.
So, I can't help but ask, like, especially because you said that, you had a very long running, very successful and, quite hilarious time, sitting next to conversations, as you said,
yes, yes.
And, one of my favorite Andy Richter stories is that I knew you as an actor on your own and was a devoted follower of a play that you did, a long-running play.
A play. There's air quotes around that, folks.
Well, it was a play. Do not disparage it. So, before I ask you this question about what it was like sitting next to conversations like that, when I was a teenager, I was on Blossom from the time I was 14 to 19, and there was a group of some of our PAs and writers' assistants who were kind of the youngest on our staff, and they would sometimes like take me out to very kosher, to things like plays or just like things in LA. And I was taken to something at the Geffen, right? It was at the Geffen Playhouse, which was in Westwood.
It was the Westwood Playhouse.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was Jill and Faith Soloway, who've gone on to do wonderful, fantastic things with their career.
Yeah.
And what it was every week was roughly a different episode of The Brady Bunch that was recreated verbatim by actors who played the entire family. And it was called The Real Life Brady Bunch. And I was this kind of teenager. I was like going to all the art house movies, and I was like seeing every film that was not in English. And I was I was like an LA kid who really wanted to be a New York kid. So for me, it was live theater. It was super fun. There were couches in place of some of the seats. And I went 29 times. because there were different episodes. So you would see different episodes of the frickin' Brady Bunch. And Andy, not for all the episodes, but Andy was in almost all the episodes that I saw. And
Yeah.
so I knew Andy as an actor, and like I had tremendous respect for like him and all these people because like they were like real actors to me. I was this sitcom actor, and these people were like slogging it out. And you guys were probably kids. Like I thought you were so much older than me. You weren't. Like I was maybe 16, 17. You guys weren't that much older.
No. I would say the median age was probably 23.
Right. And like in my
24
mind,
maybe.
you guys were like grown-ups.
Yeah.
So when I saw that you were on the Conan like that you were going to be part of Conan's world, I
Yeah.
was more excited because it was Andy Richter. Like, so excited. And my now ex-husband was a huge fan of yours, a huge fan of Conan. But like our main thing was like, look how hilarious Andy is. Like we were super into Andy. But I have to ask, like, knowing all the things, that I know about you and that, hopefully you're willing to share, like, we in our industry, we take the jobs that are available. Like we don't always get to do the job that we wish we could do. We sometimes take the
Right.
job that's there. So
Yes.
can you talk a little bit like about kind of your experience? Because you are hilarious in your own right. You're talented. You're awesome. Like you weren't you weren't Conan, right? And so you had this kind of existence. What was it like? Was it like, oh, that was no big deal? Like my dad's gay, I can handle anything. Like
You look back on your life and you're like, oh, patterns, so many patterns, so many obvious, like thuddingly obvious patterns. And that I didn't think about, oh, classic, codependent wanted to sit next to high-strung talk show host. And it's like, here I am. And I mean, but it's kind of like it bothered me for a long time. I felt like, am I like, is there something wrong with me that I'm not fighting to be number one? And then I thought, no, I don't. I've been number one, and I don't get a particular charge out of it. Like when I've been the quote unquote star of a show, I like that people listen to me when I have ideas, but the actual sort of me being the star of the show, I could not give less of a shit about. I'd rather there be three people in front of me getting all the attention, because most of the attention is dreary, just boring. It's all like meetings and shit. So I like being, just off. I heard one time Steve Van Zandt, Springsteen's band, say that he's headed a band. He said he's happy to be number two. He's like, no problem. I'm here for all the concerts. I get to have all the fun. I get to do all the travel, but I don't have all the bullshit. And I should say, I sometimes feel like I don't have enough agency. Like I've made myself, like my main skill is like making myself available to situations that are good for me. But I can't like grab them. I've written things, I've tried to write things, and just that whole uphill battle of it, I run out of energy, because by the time people are back to me with their notes about the script I've written, I don't even care about it anymore. I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen. I'd fuck it, bye. I just put it in the trash bin in my mind. It also career-wise, I've been kind of off on an island, that's just kind of, and I've talked to Conan about this. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a comic actor. I did not want to, not like I ever said, but I mean, it just wasn't among my list of wants to be Andy Richter on TV, and for that to be somehow like how I made my living. I wanted to be fake guys to make my living. So this happened. And when this happened, of course I said, yes, I want to be a part of this journey. And I was part of a show that means so much to so many people, which is one of the most profoundly rewarding things about the last 30 years, career-wise.
30 years?
It's close to 30 years. Yeah.
I can't even imagine that.
28 years since the Conan show started.
Wow. I graduated high school in 93.
All right. We get it. You're young.
Okay. He's younger.
Okay, Andy, just between
Yes.
you and me, what
Yes.
is your advice for managing a high-strung star host?
Oh, no, you didn't.
Shh, Mayim, this isn't related to you. I'm just curious.
Wait, hold on.
It was his words, high-strung. I wasn't mine.
No. This needs context, because I was thinking about this the other day. When we started this...
Am I drafting?
Hold
Is that
on.
what this is?
No,
An intervention?
No. When we started this podcast, when we had this idea, there was only going to be one chair. Okay? And then
Yeah.
we start working on it. We start working on ideas, and we're like, oh, maybe it'd be fun. Like, maybe he could say something. And he's like, well, will I need a microphone? No, you'll just shout it from the next room. And he's like, well, that's kind of weird. Maybe I should have a desk. Oh, now you want a desk? Here, I'm going to show you the desk I bought him.
She's walking away, people.
That's cute.
For the audio-only audience, she's showing a miniature.
Yeah. It's like a desk for Stuart for the mouse.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Brooklinen.
Seasons are a-changin', and so will your personal taste. Are you tired of the late-stage summer? Are you ready for something new?
I sure am.
Do what we did. Freshen up your fall with a change in decor and upgrading your comfort. That's where Brooklinen comes in. Save big, invest in your comfort during Brooklinen's Labor Day sale happening right now. I'll be honest, had no idea what Brooklinen was. And everybody's like, oh, you're not going to believe it's going to change your life. And I'm like, that's not even true. Well, indeed, it makes a difference when you sleep on good sheets.
Here's a personal
It's
endorsement.
crazy.
Here's a secret that
I love them.
we've never shared before. When I first met Mayim, she literally slept on sandpaper. Then we upgraded to soft, comfortable sheets, and our life
true.
has never been the same.
True story. The sheets keep me cool. It's like a thing. It really works. I love them. I got the striped ones because I think they're really awesome. Freshen up your fall with Brooklinen, the one-stop shop for comfort. Shop the Labor Day savings event now for savings on all things comfort. If you can't decide right now, invest in your comfort with promo code BREAK anytime. That's brooklinen.com, promo code BREAK.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Ring.
I love Ring because Ring...
Put a ring on it.
It's protection and it's peace of mind. Ring is a powerful, affordable home security system that you install yourself. And it works seamlessly with the other Ring products that exist. You can protect every corner of your home, inside and out. And it all works together in one simple app, which for people like me who are tech challenged, that's what is so important to me about Ring. You can keep an eye on your home from anywhere, right from your phone. If something's happening, Ring lets you know. It's peace of mind anytime, knowing your home is protected. For a special offer, go to ring.com/breakdown, and we will show you the perfect way to start your Ring experience. What I find most useful is the ability to manage everything in one app, the fact that it works together with all other Ring products, and I like things that make me feel protected and safe that are easy. That's just me. Protect your home anytime from anywhere with Ring Alarm. Go to ring.com/breakdown for a special offer on a Ring Alarm security kit today.
You can build a system that's right for your home and have it up and running in minutes. That's ring.com/breakdown, ring.com/breakdown.
Flash forward to a production designer and like furniture. And now we have these 2 desks and 2 microphones.
Tell them what happened when I wanted a second angle.
We have
She almost fired me.
Just
have 86
just hold your
cameras.
iPhone up.
We have
A
86
second angle.
86
What the fuck are
cameras.
you gonna do with the second angle? Lots of dramatic turns.
He's not happy with his 1 camera. He's like, well, you have 2. I was like, well,
She has 3.
I do. Well, that one's made
Right.
for him. Anyway, so we've had our own little experience here with kind of figuring it's not easy, and I will say that, and it's harder for you than me because I interrupt and I'm much louder than you.
It's true. I'm polite.
You're Canadian. It's a thing. No, but it is something very interesting that we've been figuring out. There are certain episodes where Jonathan has a lot more to say than I do, especially things in like the tech space and the futuristic thinking.
You see that hand motion, that dismissive hand motion we get?
Right. The future. Who cares?
How do you control the host? That's what I'm looking for.
How do you control? Well, you don't really. I mean, well, no, if you don't know how to control somebody, you can't learn it. I think you're bored knowing that. So it's like, if you haven't like figured out which way to nudge to get the ship to move a particular direction, I can't.
Show him
tell
your
you.
signs.
Oh, I have.
He has some signs that he
Oh,
holds
I
up.
have signs. Sadder and sadder and sadder.
This is my real job, is to tell her she's doing okay. The reason that she kept me on set was so that I could give her those reassuring looks.
What are your other signs? Well,
he doesn't get to see all.
He can be very critical. That's a question I have. Did you give feedback to Conan? Like after a show, were you like, dude, that wasn't so good? Or was it not that kind of relationship?
Oh no, you could tell. I could tell where the lines were, and there are some things that I could say. So, and also, I probably gave him more notes early on because I mean, he acknowledged, like, I just had more stage time than he did, so there was like some stuff that just I would sort of talk him through, and I always, he always. Well, not always. I became the comedy consigliere. That was like my main job, was to hear. He'd hear a joke and turn to me and go yes or no, and I'd say no.
Oh,
yeah. And that was like not for everything, but for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And he listened to me, and if I told him, most of the time, if I said I don't think this is going to work, he listened to me, and that's largely because I'm almost always right.
That's what I say.
It helps a lot when your batting average is like 900 or something. But no, I used to just kind of give him, like I say, just little notes, or like say things when he'd freak out after a bad show, and I'd say, "Well, too bad we don't get to come back tomorrow and do another one."
How'd that go over?
He would go, "Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. We do. That one's done. You got to, tough it out. There's nothing you can, the cat's out of the bag and it's running through the streets. It's nothing to do." And then but as time went on, like in terms of like performance notes, I felt too much like that was an actor giving another actor notes. And if there was something like that, like if I felt there was something that, like something that was happening that I felt was harming the quality or something. It was akin to going and telling the wardrobe guy his shirt's unbuttoned. I would tell a writer or someone else that was more in a position to sort of give a note to.
Well, I think one of the challenges that we've run into, and I wonder if you could speak to this a little bit, is like when there's other stuff going on in our lives, it's sometimes hard to like focus here.
Yes.
And I'm not at all comparing our cute little podcast to, the mastery that you created on television for 3 decades.
But
there's something
actually
about
got more time to fill.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm just kind of thinking about, like, there are some times when, like, I'm not in a good mood, Like, it's hard for me to engage, but like, I got to be here anyway. And for me, I'm trained as an actor where you just like, you have to suck it up and do it. And, so it's like, it's that dynamic also though, of when you have two people, comedy can work really well when it works well with two people, especially when it's unscripted, and it can also not work well at all.
Yeah. Well, do you think that doing this show has been good for your relationship or bad for your relationship?
I think it's the only thing keeping us together, Andy.
Wow. Tell him again what the Patreon is. So that people probably want to have a recurring payment for that.
If we don't hit our metrics, we're done.
You were married for a very long time.
Yes.
And then you got divorced, which happens. And
yes.
Sorry. But I guess I want to know, like, Can you talk a little bit about what that's like to go I mean, you went through most of your adult life with someone
Yeah.
and then you're not with them anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's in many ways, I am wise and worldly, and then there's other ways that I stopped,
yeah.
like, like dating, like the notion of dating and the sort of ins and outs of dating as a grown up, as like a real grown up, because I mean, my ex-wife and I got together when I was 25,
Yeah.
maybe, in terms of, love, sexual, romantic relationships. I was even younger than my years because I just didn't. I got all fucked up by the two divorces that I lived through as a kid, and so like when I started dating, everything was so deadly serious that that like I'd go on a date with somebody and they do something that I would and I mean, and I am a critic. They do something that I didn't like, and I'd be like, oh, well, screw it. Well, this'll never work. And then I got to college and I realized I needed to relax or I would never get laid. So I had to start being a little more accepting of people's foibles, and not worrying about, whose family we're going to spend Christmas at. Everything was way too important. But then I met my ex-wife pretty early on when I was pretty young. I wasn't like a big playboy kind of, horn dog, as I've said before, myself. And so now it's like being out and dating. There's a lot of stuff that I just have never experienced in terms of like somebody that, like the type of relationship, like, because I'm just used to being like with someone that I'm deeply committed to, like that was like
that's
my
a
whole
thing
life.
of the past.
Yeah. Now it's kind of like, well, I'm committed to today and tomorrow, let's hang out. But that's weird. It's weird, and it's taken some getting used to, and I still overthink it and over worry it. And I also just didn't know how to be by myself, and I've learned how to do that. In what seems like a relatively short time too, because I moved out of the house in February of 2019, and I was like, I don't know how to be alone. I have no idea how this works. How do people fill their days?
This brings up something I'd like to also explore a little bit, because my parents, for example, they met in 1961. They were teenagers and they got married 3 years later after literally seeing each other once a week for 3 years. And they wrote letters in the days in between. He lived in Long Island and she lived in the Bronx. And when they got married, they were both living in their parents' home, as many people in those days were. And then they moved in together, and she effectively became her mother and he became her father, right? I mean, like, that's what it was. And they did that for 53 years. Like, I mean, that was completely worked for them. I mean, so the rumor goes. But when my father passed away, 6 years ago, it was like my mother's first time being on her own, because she literally went from her parents' home to the home that she built with him, but she built that when she was 18 years old. On a very different scale, I was married for almost 10 years and we were together 5 before that. And so it was almost 20 years when you put it all together. And obviously, I'm not comparing that to my mother's and father's marriage, because God forbid, there'll never be a love like that. No one could compare. It could never be. But exactly what you said, I had never really felt like I had been alone. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons that I experienced horrible depression, don't get me wrong, but that notion of kind of isolation, it was very startling to me.
It was agonizing at first. It was agonizing, like just like crying more in a couple of months than I had in the previous 2 decades or something. And I would force myself. One thing I did at the time, and I because I was living in an apartment building, and it's one of like the most healthy things I've ever done, which is I lived in this building. I was one story above the gym, a very nice gym. It was a brand new building. And when I started to really spiral, I would go and do at least 20 minutes of cardio, up to 45 minutes of elliptical, and bring my iPad and watch like an old Highway to Heaven, like just like just like the dumbest TV I could find, and just exercise. And it was great for me. And now I live in a house with a dog, and I have an elliptical in the garage that I bought when COVID started, but I don't, like, when I'm feeling blue, I don't rush out there. I just change the channel on the television now. I'm not nearly as healthy as I was back then. And when I was in such kind of shock that I didn't watch TV really. I just listened to music. I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't care about what was going on in the world. I couldn't watch a baseball game. I just listened to music, and not, any particular, just music.
Yeah, everyone who's getting divorced right now is like, is this what's going to happen to me?
It did get better. My sister told me she got divorced years ago, and I was talking to her about it, and she said, it's going to take a couple of years before you even really know who you are again. And I was like, what? I don't have time. I need to get this party started. But it took a long time, and I got a dog. That was a huge help. I got a dog that doubled in size as a surprise. So that was like
was the dog eating gravy too?
No, the dog went from 54 pounds to 94 pounds.
What kind of dog is this?
She's
I think that's a person. They told you it was a dog, but it's really a person.
No, she was 54 pounds. They said she was a year and a half old at the rescue place. And I believed him because she's very calm and very chill. She's a border collie mixed with, and then I found out later,
Malamute.
Great Pyrenees.
Oh my!
White ones and German Shepherd.
Wow.
So she was 54 pounds. Turns out she was really probably 6 months old, because she turned into a pony.
That's a hefty girl.
Yeah. And so, but that makes a big, big difference. And she is, everybody loves their dogs. But like she's an exceptional dog. She's like the kind of dog that people say, like, wow, your dog is so chill and great and cool and sweet and friendly. And I got lucky,
What's her name?
Daisy.
Daisy. That's
she's I can be really stupid about the dog. Like, just really, like, I spent a lot of time thinking about her and thinking about just because it's the whole thing of just going and picking out an animal and then bringing it to your house just to have something to love. It's just, when you look at it, when you step back from it, it's like, wow, what a weird adaptive species we are. Here, go grab something from the wild and bring it in here. Feed it. There you go. You got a pal. Oh, wow. Cool.
Pretty sure that's why I got brought in.
Because you had a dog?
No,
she needed something to love.
I needed something from the wild to come in, and I fed it, and it's my buddy.
Now she lets me sit at the desk.
Wow. Nice.
You've talked a little bit about people and their quick fixes, when people are like,
Yes,
I
yes.
have depression too. And also what you and I are describing, and especially in that acute period after a loss, that's also, for those of us who are depressed, we know how to slip into that very quickly. But there also is a normal period of grief where after a divorce, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need drugs, you need this. It means that you have some processing to do, and you have some time that will, make some of those things less intense. But for those of us, like I said, for me, like, I'm predisposed to that. I can slip into sad, and maybe they don't need me very, very quickly on any given day. Yeah.
I did though. I completely relate to that, but it does. The problem in those instances for me is that, like, I have over the years been so vigilant about, like, being on sadness patrol and, like, I'm feeling, like if I feel myself slipping towards being sad or whatever, I would try and do something to, like think what's going on. Why am I feeling like this? Because they said that. And well, yeah, but what does that really mean? And why were they saying?
Where'd you learn those tools?
Therapy.
Yeah.
Just therapy. Just, I have a good therapist that I've been going to for about 30 years now.
And they teach you a way to think.
Yes, not explicitly.
Right.
But, but they nudge you in that way to where you start to
Meaning they teach you how to process thinking. That's what I meant.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm feeling this. What does that mean? Meaning instead of I'm feeling this, I'm a piece of shit. I don't deserve to be here. I go home now. I cry. They teach you to say, you're having a feeling. What happened? What does it really mean? That's the brain that you get. And with enough time and practice, it becomes more automatic. And
But it is a process, because I do think sometimes people think therapy that they're going to go in and they're only going to do like 30% of the talking, but you do like 95% of the talking.
Because we need to be heard.
Yeah, because that's the point. You're not like, my therapist isn't there to talk. He's there for me to talk. And like I say, to give me nudges in directions to say like, well, why do you think you felt like that? And then he doesn't say, here's why you felt like that. He asked me why I think I did. And then I have to go, well, and believe me, and I have gotten good. Like my selfie microscope has very sharp focus, and I'm pretty good at, I have blind spots, and I can be a dick, and I can be a stupid and forgetful, but I feel like I do have a pretty good grasp of why I do what I do, and why when I do something that I'm not proud of or that I don't like, which usually involves like hurting someone's feelings or being inconsiderate, how do I not do that? How do I stop myself from doing that? How do I tell I'm not like a big slogan person, but I do have work for peace. And I tell my kids this: work for peace. Like whatever's coming out of your mouth right now, is it war or is it peace? And filter that, go through that filter, make it like an automatic sort of thing. But I sometimes, when I have a real good excuse to be sad, sometimes that natural sadness that is deserved and is entirely appropriate, I have felt like I got to push this out. I got to figure this thing. I got to conquer. I got to wrestle this gator to the ground, And there's times like, no, you don't. You just got to sit here and feel it. I started a number of years ago. I started to just get less depressed and then kind of undepressed. Like, I don't really feel like I'm that depressed anymore when I get to, outside of, my family breaking up. But we've had some space between, that's behind us a little. And now I'm like at a point where I don't feel depressed. I have things that kind of worry me, and I have stresses and stuff, but I don't feel depressed. It's a combination of all this work, possibly just time, possibly just like my brain matured into a way where the chemicals are balanced better. And part of it is the medication, really good medication. Trintellix, people love it. And I had to change my medication after the first Christmas out of the house. The first Christmas out of the house, first holiday season out of the house, threw me for a loop. So I did a medication change, and that was a huge, huge help. When you try to not be sad, it can create an anxiety where you would just be better off just being sad about something for a little bit, just letting yourself go.
What do you say to people who don't believe in medication? Meaning, I'll figure it out. There's too many side effects. I don't want to do it. Because what I like about you is that you, I like a lot of things about you, but what I love about the way you talk about it is you're very matter of fact about it. And I grew up like it was a very strong sense of like, kind of like shame around it, and like we don't talk about it, and it's very secret, and like, oh, there's something wrong with him or her. What do you say to people who are like, I'd rather do it on my own, and that's not really you? What do you say to them?
Right. I mean, I brush my teeth too because I know it keeps away tooth decay. It's just it's the way you fix this thing. And this thing is real. I have this thing. What are the ways what are the different avenues to make it better? There's this and this and this, and part of that for me is medication. And I don't fight with people. I never fight with people about it. I mean, when I started taking it, I had friends would be like, well, so are you going to have to be on it forever? Which I don't, that's just like some stoic old European thing of us like being like, what do you need help? You know, you should just go out there and cut down all that weed on your own. Don't ask for help. You don't need a horse. They're afraid of their brains. They don't understand their brains. So anything that's like, well, it fixes your brain chemicals, that seems terrifying to people. And that seems to be fiddling with their basic being. And it is not, folks. It works because they have devoted lots and lots of really smart people have worked long and hard on these medications so that they do what they're intended to do. And they make people's lives better, and they are a godsend and a blessing.
I don't have a particular, let's say, opinion. You know, there have been times when I've been on medication. There have been times when I'm not on medication.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important for people to hear that. I think many people don't realize the reality that they're living in, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that, like, I believe in, what is it, a Prozac nation where everybody needs to be on a pill.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's true. We'd all be much nicer and friendlier if we were all on a drug that enhances the amount of serotonin that you take in. Like most people would be much better to deal with. But for many people, I mean, I was one of them, you know, when you live with a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly grind of a mood that is literally depressed, meaning at a level that is, quote, below its optimal functioning, it affects your mood, obviously, in like the, most general sense. It affects your sex drive. It affects hobbies. It affects who you socialize with. If you socialize at all, it affects your relationship with your family. I mean, it literally touches every part of your life. And therapy also will touch all that. Takes a longer time and should be done in conjunction with medication. But I think it's really important for people to realize that, like, sure, if you fear pharmaceuticals and you fear big pharm and you don't believe in medication, I probably can't convince you of anything. But the notion that an appropriate assessment of your mood and how much your life is impacted by your mood, I think is really important to be able to make that decision.
If people don't want to, I'm not proselytizing. I'm just saying this really works for me, and this works for me in a way so that I believe in it profoundly. Like I have a deep belief that this is good. And I have a deep belief that, yes, there are some problems with certainly the pharmaceutical industry and with certain drugs, and how, and some people are unlucky and can't find anything that works, but they are like overwhelmingly for the good of humanity and are doing like wonderful things in people's lives. And I think, especially, if I ever, and I give to some charities that do this kind of stuff, or I have in the past, but like mental health for poverty, for people in poverty is like an economic plan, because you can't get yourself out of poverty if you are clinically depressed.
Correct.
If you can't get out of your apartment, if you can't leave your bed, you can't, become a functioning member of society. So, like if I ever make a gazillion dollars and can start something, the Andy Richter something or other, it would be mental health care for low income people.
Well, I will join you in that. That's beautiful. I mean, it's a human right. It is absolutely a human right. Thank you so much for saying that. That's really awesome.
Sure.
Before we let you go, can you do a little rapid fire with us?
Okay.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Here's rapid fire with Andy Richter. What was your mother right about?
Oh, my mother what was she right about? She was right about insist on high quality meat.
I agree.
Yeah.
What was your father right about?
What was my father right about? My father was right about a particular member of my family being a horse's ass, but I'm not going to say who.
I hope it wasn't your mother. Location that promotes your best mental health.
The beach, probably.
Any beach in particular? I mean, like
No,
Southern
just,
California
like,
beach, like
Yeah,
okay.
the beach.
The beach.
Although I have real. I just was back in Illinois this last
They
weekend.
don't have beaches there, bro.
And no, I know. But that what they do have is like relentlessly green spaces. And I miss those. Living in California, it's a little too dusty.
Brown, yes.
Brown, yeah.
If you had a mantra, what would it be? Or is it work for peace?
It would be work for peace. And the other one I like is get better. Like you don't have to get perfect. You don't have to get fixed. You just get better, you know.
You mean you're telling me I need to get better?
Yeah.
At everything I do.
Specifically you.
Copy that.
I'm having it made into a bumper sticker, and I'm going to send it right over.
Best spiritual teacher.
Yeah, I would say my kids. My kids, in terms of like making me think about things having just sort of like larger world implications. Because I don't have like a real deity belief, but I do think that, you know, the microcosm is the macrocosm.
Okay.
So it's like,
You're getting real deep. Yes.
But you know,
We just had this conversation last night.
We did?
The microcosm and the macrocosm.
I didn't know that's what we were talking about. All right.
That happens often.
Okay, we'll circle back. Okay, 2 more. You're doing great.
Okay.
The moment you've had your best intuition.
When I, this just comes to mind. I can't, but when I told Conan O'Brien, don't get on the back of that musk ox.
No context needed.
There was a musk ox that people said, and you can ride it. And I said, don't ride that musk ox. And it was a catastrophe.
Who are you most competitive with?
Probably myself.
You and Matthew
Probably
McConaughey.
myself. Yeah. I mean, because there isn't anybody really. I mean, I will occasionally, you know, have professional envy, but it's not anything real, and it's not anything. And I mean, and you know, everybody's career is so unique and so different from each other's that it's hard to be like,
you're totally wrong. I'll talk to you about that another time.
Okay.
Andy Richter, thank you so much for your time and your energy.
Tell people where they can find all of your stuff.
My stuff? Well, you mean give my house address, my home address? Yeah, it's all in the house, and it's spread around in different rooms. No, I have a podcast called The 3 Questions with Andy Richter, that being me. I actually have an audiobook project that I'm sort of the subject of that was written by a bunch of different comedy writers called The Incredibly Inaccurate Biography of Andy Richter.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was.
Why have they not interviewed me?
Well, they could.
I've seen you in tight bell bottoms. I know a lot.
No, this guy Joel Cohen had this idea, and he wants it to make it a refillable series called a liography, which is like you pick a person that's the subject who has a hand in it and gets, you know, to write interstitials.
That is so cool.
And then the chapters are all divvied up among different comedy writers. And so there's like, I think there's 14
I'm not a comedy
chapters.
writer. I get it.
There's 14 writers, and it's all nonsense though. It's all
that's really, really awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It's really weird. I never did get through the whole thing, like, because it just is too weird to listen to. Even though it's all BS and all nonsense, it's hard to listen to something that is that much about me.
Right.
Even in like ostensibly about me. So yeah, I have, but it's really funny, and everybody that has heard it loves it. And then other than that, I got irons in the fire. I got, you know, developing an animated show. I'm attached to a game show because that's one of the silly things in my life is I'm a game show host. I've hosted a number of pilots. You relate a little bit.
I do,
you know.
and actually, we shouldn't let you go without mentioning this little tidbit from your bio, which is that, if I'm not mistaken, you hold the record for all-time highest one-day score on Celebrity Jeopardy. Is that correct?
I believe that's true. Yeah.
You won $68,000 during a first-round game. It was 2009 to 10 was the season. Jeopardy! $1 Million Celebrity Invitational, and you donated your earnings to St. Jude. Is that right? St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you a Jeopardy person?
Yeah. I mean, I watch it fairly regularly, but I'm not religious the way some people are.
No, but your brain, like, I would do horrible on Jeopardy. Your brain works this way.
Yes. Yeah, I know a lot of stuff that I don't know why I know it, and it is an inch deep. You know, like I'll know
$68,000 deep going to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital.
But it's like I know Sylvia Plath wrote The Bell Jar, but I don't know what The Bell Jar is about.
Oh, it's very depressing. Don't read it.
I won't. But it's all the kind of stuff that makes you good at crossword puzzles and stuff. And also, I think there is something about being a comedian and being able to do that show, because most of the really big money winners are comedian types.
Interesting.
Because you're just used to thinking on your feet, I think.
Oh, I know. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, I should ask you other pointers. Well, hopefully in my future there will be Celebrity Jeopardy that I get to host, and you know who I'd like to call on? Andy Richter.
Me? I would love to do that. That would be fun. Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayim.
Lovely to talk to you.
It was a fun conversation.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Make peace, Mayim.
That's not even his expression.
Work for peace. But he said, is your comment making peace or war? Clearly you're in the war stance as you cross your arms.
Oh, I'm just avoiding speaking until I have something peaceful to say. There's an acronym for thinking. Think. Is what you're about to say thoughtful, honest, important, necessary, and kind? Thoughtful, honest, important, necessary, kind.
What about funny? If it's just funny, that should also
Sometimes you don't need to say funny things. I mean, do you know what I meant about how matter-of-fact he is?
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, he's just very like, yeah, I needed help. I went to therapy and I put on this medication and it changes the chemistry in my brain and I'm not a mess all the time, you know? I just love how matter-of-fact he is. I still have a lot of like, I should do it on my own, or like, there's something wrong. There's really something wrong with me. And if I was just a better me, then I wouldn't need help, you know?
I mean, he has an amazing quote about depression. That was, I guess, a tweet from 2017.
What are you going into his tweets? That's weird.
I have been followed by an ever-present amorphous sadness for almost my entire life. It varies in strength from a casual, unresolved suspicion that I will never find the joy that others do in a sunset, to the feeling that being dead might be a respite and a kindness. I will still reach the end of my life having walked through most of it with an emotional limp. I do not wallow in self-pity. No one did this to me. It is just how it is. I am just unlucky. If you are unburdened by depression, real true depression, count yourself lucky. Keep your quick fixes to yourself. This is the kind of BS that kills people. Learn, then speak, or just be lucky and quiet. He sounds like he's changed a lot since that tweet, but it's such a powerful...
Well, and I think, I mean, you know, without knowing the specific context, you know, I think that's also probably in response to maybe to something that happened where someone was like, just get over it, or you don't need it. You know, the people who best know, you know, kind of what it's like are the people who have experienced it. And we all experience it differently. But I know that for me, when I connect with someone who really, really gets it, that I don't feel shame.
If people want to connect with us, they can do so on Instagram at Bialik Breakdown, Bialik Breakdown. Yep, I just went ahead and did it. They can also ask Mayim anything at bialikbreakdown.com. We'll do it one more time,
Bialik.
Breakdown.com. There's an Ask Mayim Anything segment there, or a little form you can fill out. You can also send us a video. And today's Ask Mayim Anything comes from Mary O.
Ask Mayim Anything. Yeah.
How can we take care of mental health while grieving? It's a tough one, and
Yeah.
it's interesting to me because in this episode he talked about the being on sadness patrol, feeling the need to monitor sadness because it can go sort of deep for him, and yet at the same time, sometimes he said you just need to feel your feelings, and you can't just bypass them.
Well, and I think also, I don't think the notion was just like surrender to it. The notion was don't numb it out. Don't push it aside, don't shove it down, and don't try and fix it. But, when you're in grief, meaning when you're grieving, which is a normal process that occurs for almost all of us in one way or another, there are still things that we can do to try and maintain mental health. Sleep is a big one, especially when grieving. It's important to, quote, stay busy, but also not to drown yourself in, because that's another distraction, it's another distraction. But yeah, I think sleep and diet are important. If you have a mental health, professional that you speak to, keep that up. And also try and do small things to remind your brain that there is joy or there is comfort, even if it's a cup of tea, even if it's a bath. Yeah, those are kind of some of the things. And also, there are many wonderful resources online. And if you don't have a therapist and you find yourself in grief, that is a really, really excellent time to pursue some outside help.
Thank you, Mayim. Everyone listening
Thank you, Mary.
can support the show. Subscribe everywhere you get podcasts and go to Mayim's YouTube channel. Click the little bell notification to
Ding.
get new episodes.
Okay, from our breakdown to the one we hope you never have. We'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, one and now she's gonna break down